Today we are going to learn about difference between virtual DOM and real DOM. So basically, first of all, we will learn about what is DOM. Basically, DOM stand for Document Object Model. It is basically a structural representation of all nodes in an HTML documents. Then DOM represents the UI of your application. So what does DOM do? It represents the user interface of your application. Then DOM manipulation is required to dynamically change the content of a web page. So yeah, DOM manipulation is required to dynamically change the content of a web page. And then DOM is an interface that allows the script to update the content. So basically it is an interface that allows script to update the content, style and the structure of the document. So it is basically an interface with the help of we can simply makes the HTML web pages into dynamic by embedding JavaScript. That's the simple meaning of DOM. And DOM is basically a tree-like structure. Then we are going to see what is real DOM. So the DOM represents the web page, often called a document with a logical tree, and each branch of the tree ends in a node, and each node contain object. Programs can modify the content of the document using JavaScript language like this. So basically it represents a web page. We can also call sometime as a document, and it's like a logical tree, and each branch of a tree ends in a node. So each branch of that tree ends in a node, like HTML node, and each node contain object. So each node having the objects programs. So we can modify that content and document using just by using JavaScript. So we are making the like that web page which made by HTML and CSS static. We can make it dynamic by using JavaScript by modifying the content. JavaScript language or any scripting language like JavaScript, and the changes and updates through the DOM are fast because it's a tree-like structure, and it is basically a tree-like structure, and it is a fast. But after changes, the updated element and its children have to be re-rendered. If any changes happen within that web page by using the DOM in JavaScript for updation, so it re-render, and it takes some time for updating the showing the updated content to update the application UI, and it updates the UI by updating the application contents. So the rendering of UI which make the DOM slow. All the UI components you need to be rendered for every DOM update. So real DOM would render the entire list and not only those items that receive the update. So what happened, if any changes happen within that DOM, so it re-render that entire DOM instead of just updating that single thing. So sometime it is just slower because it updates the whole DOM again and again if there is a little changes happen in there. Then what is virtual DOM? So basically virtual DOM is a like VDOM is a virtual DOM is basically a virtual representation of real DOM. So basically it is just a simple virtual representation of our real DOM which we seen above. React updates the state changes in a virtual DOM first, and then it sync with real DOM. So basically virtual DOM is a exact copy of real DOM, but is basically a virtual representation. And if any React update the state in virtual DOM first, and then it sync with real DOM. It's simply like if there is like real DOM and it is like a virtual DOM. So first of all, what happened, if any changes happen within web page, first of all it updates its current virtual DOM, and it before updating the real DOM, it always checks its current virtual DOM and its previous virtual DOM If it finds any changes in between both of them, then only it updates the real DOM, which always syncs with real DOM, virtual DOM. So what is virtual DOM? Virtual DOM is just like a blueprint of a machine can do changes in a blueprint, but those changes will not directly apply to the machine. So basically it is, you can say, a blueprint of machine. It can do changes in blueprint, and only do one thing, that not directly apply to the machine. Before applying directly to machine, it always check if there is any changes. So the reason React is a more faster, because it doesn't re-render every time if there is no changes. Virtual DOM is a programming concept where a virtual representation of UI is kept in memory. Basically, it is a programming concept where in that virtual representation of UI kept in memory, and it always sync with real DOM by a library such as React DOM. So yeah, the real DOM and virtual DOM always sync with each other by using this library React DOM, and this process is called reconciliation. They are synced with each other, that is, the process is known as reconciliation. And virtual DOM makes the performance faster, not because of the processing itself, it done in less time. Yeah, so it is faster just because it done that all the processing in less time. The reason is the amount of change information rather than wasting time on updating the entire page. So the reason is the amount of change information rather than wasting time on updating the entire page. You can dissect it into smaller relevant and interaction. So that's an all. Then we are going to see the difference between both real DOM and virtual DOM. So real DOM. So DOM manipulation is very expensive. In real DOM manipulation is very expensive, because if there is any changes within a real DOM, it always re-render again and again. And DOM manipulation is very easy in this. Then too much memory wastage. Here no memory wastage, because it re-render application again and again. So there is too much memory wastage, and here is no memory wastage, because it always checks before updating the real DOM its current DOM and current virtual DOM and its previous. Then if there is any changes, then only it updates real DOM. Then it updates slow. It updates slow, it updates fast. Then it can directly update HTML, it can't directly update HTML. Then creates a new DOM if the element update. It always create a new DOM if there is any element updated. Update the J6 if the element update. It updates its J6 if there is any updation within a web page. That's the simple difference between both of them. Then it allows us to directly target any specific node, HTML and React. So we can target any HTML node directly, but it in the case of virtual DOM, it can produce about 2 lakh virtual DOM per second. So updation is not that simple in virtual DOM. It represents UI of your application. It is basically a virtual representation of DOM, not actual. Then there are some methods of DOM. So with the help of, we can update the web page. These are basically a method like get element by ID. So return the element with the past ID. So by using this get element by ID, we have to put this ID to like HTML tag, and we have to access by using this JavaScript. So you can update that content. Then like write string, then get element by name. This is also method get element by tag name, get element by class name, and these are the methods of DOM.